thank you so much for being here with me today on The Diana Show. I need some music. I wanted to record an episode today about fathers for Father's Day. And I think in general, this isn't the first time I've spoken about the importance of men and strong men and stand-up men in everyone's lives, like how much value they bring. The role that it's had in my life over the last 53 years, my own personal relationship with my dad, and then the relationships that I've seen affected by strong fatherhoods, whether it's my children, my adopted children, my biological children, my stepchildren. I really am of the mindset that is very little that's better than having a strong man to support children, to support their partners. How impactful it is when the guy is getting it right. So I'm going to start by talking about my father. My father had me. I was actually laying in bed last night and I said, my 23-year-old son Cooper would have had 2 children by now, I believe. I believe my dad had both of his children by the time he was 23, maybe 24. That's such a young age to be parenting 2 little girls. And he had an epic wife, my mom. But when you think about somebody that young and the impact he made, the childhood memories that I have with him, the things that I watched him do, the things he was not a perfect person, the things I watched him struggle with. He probably quit smoking several times. That was a big topic over my childhood. And then the things that he did right that really built me into the person that I am today, along with my mom. I would say the number one thing that I saw him do right was that he loved my mom. He's very loving and affectionate and caring and supportive, and he would show up for my mom in the ways that she needed. I loved watching that, and I always had that in the back of my head that I wanted a relationship like that someday. That was, you emulate what you grew up with. And so I grew up with watching their relationship. And of course, there were things that I didn't want in their relationship, but there was a lot of it that was really good. And I was telling a friend yesterday that your childhood memories really are not the big vacations that you do or Christmases or whatever. It's not always just those big events. Sometimes it's just the day-to-day. Sometimes it's that your dad will show up for an event that you have or get on your side and help you out when you are in crisis because you have a report that's late, or help explain something at school to you that you're really struggling with. And I can think of times over my life where my dad showed up like that for me. And I remember that. And so I always wanted that for my kids. And I always knew it and valued the importance of it. So growing up, like I said, my dad was this steady person. He went to work. He had the same job. I think it was 36 or 38 years that he worked for the same company. He retired from there. He had the same cadence throughout his week. My mom switched jobs. She was able to, because of his steady job, she was able to try some different things and do some different things. And for many, many years of our life, she was able to be home with us. And that was a gift that he gave us by being able to support my mom to be able to stay at home and take care of us. I looked it up, and there's some stats that say from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, children with involved fathers are 39% more likely to earn A's in school. They're 45% less likely to repeat a grade and 60% less likely to be suspended or expelled. And that's huge. Honestly, where would we be without, just even like going through grade school, going through puberty, going through junior high, where would we be without that steady presence of a man? It makes a huge difference. Another thing that my father did that really rounded out my life and that I emulated is that he had a lot of different interests. His name's Dan, and often he was referred to as the Dan of all trades. Like, he could do anything. Not just handy stuff around the house that was useful, but he was into woodworking. He was into scrimshaw at one time and would etch art into bone. Played tennis. He learned about jogging. He, like, everything that you can think of. Like, that was the thing in our life, is that he didn't just work and come home and eat dinner and go to sleep. He had many, many hobbies and many, many interests. And I know that he'll be remembered for all of the things that he tried out. What that did for me is it made me feel like I had this freedom. There's nothing wrong with trying different things and doing different things. He never batted an eye about becoming interested in a new thing. He would just sell the old stuff to pay for the new stuff, and then all of a sudden he was done with classic cars and into skeet shooting, or done with golfing and into woodworking. And sometimes these hobbies would overlap, but it brought in new friends into our life. It brought in this sort of like dynamic that was very interesting into our home. And it wasn't just all about him. I felt like there were things from my childhood that I can remember. He was into breeding parakeets for a while, so we had this huge parakeet cage in the backyard. And it's just interesting, like this is my life or a painting. These are the strokes that my life was painted with. And it's these memories that I have, these different things that I learned about the world, or I learned about in my little world, that made me more confident, made me feel like I could speak to. Just recently, my dad taught me how to turn a bowl and on a wood lathe, and I learned how to make a beautiful bowl out of a piece of wood. And so to have all of these experiences over the years has turned me into this person that A, I'm not afraid to try new things. B, I respect it. I think that it's really important for us to do things besides work, sleep, and eat. I feel confident to speak on many subjects, not just my work, not just the work I've done in my lifetime to earn a living, but also writing, traveling, dancing, whatever it is. I feel confident going out and giving whatever it is a shot. And I think that I got that from my dad. So there's all kinds of dads. My dad had two. He got married young. He stayed with the same woman his whole life. And as I mentioned before, I feel like he gave me this foundation of the kind of life that I wanted to live. And he gave me the security, not just financially, but like the security to know that I always had people that had my back. But there's all different kinds of dads. I'm married to a man who has fathered, adoptive fathered, and biologically fathered 8 children. So those kids range in age from early 30s all the way down to we have an 8-year-old together. And watching him be able to text with the one in college, text with the one who lives out of state. And even though he doesn't see those every day, we don't sit down and have dinner with them every day, all the way down to keeping in touch on a daily basis from morning until night with our 8-year-old and having the energy for that. I just think to myself, what a different experience these kids would have had if he weren't around, and how much richness and joy and memories and experience that he's brought to their life from being the kind of person that is steady, engaged about them. He truly has been interested in what they're interested in. When one of our daughters wanted to move last year to Santa Barbara, he's about driving down there and seeing her and visiting her and helping her and talking to her when she needs to call late at night. When we had 2 girls that were in flags over across the street at the high school, and he's there for them. You know, he's wearing the shirt. You know, when our 8-year-old is swimming out on the deck, he's there for all of her practices and cheering her on. He's involved in volunteering at her sports. He's coaching her teams. And so to be able to have that richness, I mean, it's just like gold. To be able to be like, there's my dad. I think it's an incredible thing. And especially with Father's Day being right around the corner, I just wanted to speak about how important it is and what a big job it is. What an integral part of a truly joyful, well-rounded life a good man really is, having a good father. I think we sometimes forget that fatherhood isn't about biology. It's about who will show up for this woman and these children, or who will show up for this family. And when you have a father who can come around and understand that parenthood isn't like helping out, parenthood isn't babysitting. Parenthood is showing up and diving in and digging in, and sometimes doing more than 50% of the work, because maybe your partner has got something else going on that is pulling them away at the time. Maybe they've got a sick parent. Maybe they've got a project going on at work. Fatherhood is such a incredibly important stabilizing factor in the home. I can speak in our blended family. I think whether you're a foster father, whether you're a biological father, an adoptive father, a step parent, whatever you are, being that person that kids know that they can open the door and you're going to be steady and similar to how you were last week, and that there isn't a bunch of drama all the time and you are a stabilizing force in their lives is a huge deal. I sometimes feel like, honestly, having a good partner is like the biggest deal, because I know recently there have been times when I've said things to our 8-year-old that he will gently pull me aside later and be like, I don't think that's a good idea for us to say that to her. And I'll tell you the story actually. She has been eating her hair, and we've been talking about it for like a year. And I finally said, I'm going to start cutting it off. Any parts I find that are wet, I'm going to start cutting them off. And he took me aside and was like, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we should be threatening her. I don't want it to become like a traumatic thing that she remembers you doing. He's right. He's 100% right. And so I appreciate having a father in the house that's not only a good father to his kids, he's a good partner to me in that he didn't make me feel embarrassed. He didn't call me out in front of her. He didn't tell me I was an idiot or a bad mom. He just stated his opinion, which I believe was absolutely correct. So that's another example of why having a good guy in the house is gold. I can speak from the woman's perspective in saying that sometimes it is a big job to be a mom. It's a big job to be a daughter. It's a big job to be a woman in this world, in the workforce. And to have a guy that comes in and supports that, sees your vision, wants to see you fly, wants to see you do better, wants to see you be the best mom. There is something to be celebrated in that, understand that it's like it's holy work almost, you know. So anyway, if you're a father, biological father, stepfather, adoptive father, if you're an amazing uncle, you have a lot to be proud of. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing up, and thank you so much for the efforts that you make on behalf of the women in the world, your partners, your children. It's important, and it's appreciated.